Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm hoping everyone's having an amazing day. Today is a Thursday and I'm currently home. Currently just moved home actually from the crazy things going on like the coronavirus. School sent us all home, so I've been home for almost a week, and I thought I would do a video on wedding planning. So I am in the midst of wedding planning. I've been engaged for almost 3 months, which is crazy, and I'll be getting married August 10th. So I thought I would do a video as a soon-to-be bride, which is super exciting. Also, my family runs a wedding business, so I thought I would have some really good insight on the planning process, as I am currently in the planning process, and what it's like to kind of be a bride and things that we notice that maybe brides don't do that is really good in terms of planning to keep the stress level down. So one that I would say is the planning book. It is so helpful. It's laid out. I honestly just used a regular notebook. Honestly, it's probably from the dollar store. And I made it into little sections with my own notes, but you can kind of do it any way you want. I also have a binder that I keep important documents in, and any contracts that I've signed, anything that I've kind of wanted to keep throughout the planning process. Makes it really easy to go back and see things in an orderly fashion, which is really helpful when things get a little bit stressful. So the things that are important that I put in here may be different for what you like, but the planning book is definitely awesome, and this is something that I'll potentially keep and go back and look through and maybe share with potentially my daughters or brides that I come in contact with. A lot of the important things I put on here, my favorite one is a checklist. Checklists make it so easy to see what you have left to do and see what you've done, and it's so exciting to check things off and so satisfying. So definitely recommend doing the checklist first. It gives you a little bit of an idea of what you will need to do for the next coming months, which leads into my next topic, which is scheduling. I don't have necessarily a bunch of schedules in my planning book, but in my journal and just kind of even on my laptop, I just have a nice schedule to figure out, if I decide that I want a certain type of decor or a certain type of anything for the wedding. I write it down when I need to have it ordered by, when it needs to be, discussed, and all of those type of things. The schedule is really nice to have it laid out so you can go through and make sure that you're not doing anything last minute, because wedding planning is very stressful. So I would recommend having a schedule, even for any dates, just having it in a planner to make sure that you're scheduling your days around the certain fun, exciting wedding things. It's so much fun to plan a wedding, and it's so much fun to be a part of weddings. So it's really awesome to have a schedule. My next one would be a budget, which is huge. If you look up things on how to start wedding planning, a budget is definitely number one on people's lists. It became a little stressful when we didn't have a budget. I waited maybe to put it off for too long. So I definitely recommend doing that first. A budget helps you kind of like lay out all of the things, obviously, that you're going to need to be purchasing. Helps you kind of stay on track, helps you realize how much you're going to need to spend, how much to save. I currently was just a student at Olds College, just home. So being a student and needing to plan out my budget for, groceries and rent and stuff like that helps you kind of stay on track and feel a little bit relieved, honestly, when you have a budget. A budget honestly just helps you kind of look at what's going on in your current life and whether you're spending monies on groceries or rent. I was just a student, so it was really, really important for me to kind of figure out, what was kind of in my bank account and what I needed to put away for the wedding. And if you're paying for your wedding on your own or your parents are helping, it's really important to kind of get a nice structured layout of all the things that you'll need to be purchasing, and all the stuff maybe helps you kind of narrow down your budget on things like decor, florals, photography. It also helps you not contact a bunch of photographers who are out of your budget. You don't really want to waste people's time in the business, so definitely a budget kind of helps get the ball rolling too. Money becomes really important, and whether you feel like you want to spend a ton on the wedding or you want to spend a ton on the honeymoon or life in general. So a budget is definitely a big one. I also recommend doing that first. The next one, which obviously most of you probably already have, is a Pinterest board. Also, a key thing is sharing your Pinterest board with other people. I have mine shared with my mom and my two sisters. And actually my florist, so that's really helpful. People can just go on, kind of see what you're thinking in the midst of all the decision making. It makes it really easy for your maid of honor, your mom, your friends, your vendors to go in and look and see what you're kind of thinking, what you're saving, whether or not, you know, the whole thing you've saved is the big picture, or, you know, you liked the flowers in this one, the dress in this one, the hair in this one. It also kind of helps them see kind of what you're thinking, as they don't have to pick your brain on the wedding planning process, because it gets really stressful when you have to make all the decisions sometimes. Thankfully, my fiance helps so much with making decisions, and I don't really do anything without consulting him, because I'm that type of person. I like to have his opinion, and I definitely need his not approval, but I need his help to decide things, because I don't like deciding things on my own. So it is really helpful to also let other people see. So the Pinterest board is a big one, also to kind of have a place where you can go and scroll and kind of have your ideas flow. A big thing for a Pinterest board is some inspiration. So it kind of helps you look up certain things that you felt like you wanted, and you get to see it the way other people did it, which is, you know, kind of what Pinterest is all about. But the wedding, definitely the Pinterest board is so I actually find it essential. I wouldn't have any of my ideas if it wasn't for Pinterest. You can kind of get a starting point and take your own little spin on it, which is really exciting. And that's when people get to see kind of all of your ideas and your creations and what you're like through your wedding. So the Pinterest board is a really big one. It's also really fun to just go and scroll through and spend some time on Pinterest, and it kind of takes your mind off of wedding planning, which for me, I really enjoyed the wedding planning process. It hasn't been super stressful, but for those who maybe have a different experience, it could be a little stressful. So it's kind of a little mind relaxer, which is awesome when you're wedding planning. One thing is not, obviously it's a tip, but something that is just really important in terms of wedding planning, especially with vendors and all of, you know, extra people helping out with your day, is good communication. One thing that's really important is having good communication with your fiance about the things you want and about the things that maybe they have ideas on, so that you guys, it makes it easier to come to a little bit of a consensus when you guys are having good communication and you have been talking about all of the different things that, you know, bring the wedding together. Good communication with your vendors is another big one. You know, telling them exactly what you want. And it's totally okay to be really specific with your vendors, because, well, let's face it, it's your big day. And, you know, for a lot of people, you know, it's, well, let's face it, it's the most important day of your life, so you want it to be perfect. And so having good communication with your vendors and telling them exactly what you want makes it a little less worrisome about the day of, when they're working for you and you don't end up with, you know, pictures you didn't want and flowers you didn't want and stuff like that. So having good communication with your vendors, staying in contact with them is really important. Maybe even the good communication creates good relationship, and I find that good relationship with your vendors creates a very less stressful day of. Another really big helpful tip that I found is really helpful, and I think is kind of a little bit weird, but telling people what you want and being specific. I know for me, I see a lot of weddings, and preferably I don't love all of the classic wedding traditions. Like the cake cutting, I won't be having a cake cutting, but if you don't tell people that who are helping you plan, it makes it really hard. And sometimes it takes a lot for mothers to get over things. So make sure you communicate with your mom the certain traditions that you do not want. Another really big thing, not really in terms of the wedding planning, but in terms of the wedding day, is make sure you hire a videographer. I know a lot of people who didn't, and they regret it. Videos are honestly my favorite thing to watch about weddings. You really get all of the feels, although I absolutely love the pictures. So another one going along with that is hire a really good photographer. Make sure you really take time to look at their content, look at their style, communicate with them about what it is about their style that you like, so they can kind of do their best to, you know, incorporate what you like with their style. So videographer and photographer are a really big one in terms of the wedding day. One thing that I have been learning, and you know this if you sent out your guest list and your invitations, that getting people's addresses is so hard. I had to go through my mom to get addresses. I didn't have all my family members' numbers. You don't have everyone's numbers. You don't have everyone's addresses, because why would you have 180 people's addresses? So getting them to give you their address and keeping it somewhere, whether or not at your shower or your wedding specifically, having an area where people can actually write down their address and give it to you, so you can send out thank you cards, which is really handy. Then you don't have to scramble. Then that's my ring. Then you don't have to scramble for people's addresses, because that was probably the most frustrating part about sending out the invitations. Wasn't even writing them, it was trying to get their addresses. One thing along with the wedding planning is actually preparing for marriage. I read this super cool thing, and it was like, you spend so much time planning for the wedding, which is so exciting. I'm so excited to get married, but is actually preparing for marriage. So I personally think it's a really good idea. Sean and I have sat down a few times talking about, some of the things that we're gonna do to kind of prepare for marriage. We don't live together currently, so that's gonna be a really big change for us along with marriage. So getting to know each other on a little bit of a deeper level is something that we kind of do. Even asking things like, what's your favorite color right now? It's little things to get you used and get used to each other a little bit more on a deeper level, and getting to kind of talk about what life could potentially be like when we're married, and a lot the cool things that we've talked about, not really cool things, but things we've talked about is, some of the responsibilities that we will have as man and wife, and some of the things that I want to take over, because I really enjoy cooking for him, but sometimes he likes to help me, and that's one of his big things, is helping me. So I kind of want to be like, this is the way that I want to give to you, let me be responsible for, meal prepping and making you dinner, because that's one thing that I really enjoy, and that's something that I can do for him, and that is also a responsibility, is making food. So doing things like that and talking about your responsibilities that you enjoy doing and you enjoy doing for that other person will help make you prepared for marriage. And a little bit of encouragement for you guys, just as going on with your wedding planning, and something that you can't really ignore, is just remember that no matter how prepared and planned you think you are, it's going to be stressful a few days before, but it's all okay, don't worry, because the wedding day, no matter what happens, whether or whatever, it'll be perfect, and you'll be married by the end of it. So I hope that these were some good tips and tricks just for your wedding planning, and I hope I made you feel a little bit better. And congratulations!